So in the world that we live in today, this whole concept of personal branding isn't anything new. But I do believe we've been seeing various evolutions of this over the years, that it's really been starting to seep into the public domain. And I think initially there was a very curated version of what a personal brand would be. It would be very much filtering only the most perfect bits of who you are, and only the bits of who you are that truly served the purpose that you had. And an example of this would be the initial Instagram feeds that we used to see, which were just like curated perfection. But we have definitely moved on since then, where people now value vulnerability, they value humanness. And ultimately, I think it's because when we see filtered versions of perfection, they don't make us feel very good about ourselves. Like occasionally they'll be aspirational, but I think what's more aspirational and inspirational in the modern world is actually seeing somebody who is imperfect, but is thriving anyway, but is getting out there and sharing things and bringing that office to the world in an imperfect way, because it shows us that we also can do that too. We can be imperfect and still thrive. But when you're entering into this space of, okay, I am now the face of my business, I'm now the face of my brand, or in some way I want to actually have a considered personal brand that I'm going to put out into the world, we can definitely meet all sorts of friction in doing that. And I think this can be difficult for a lot of us because really, if you think about it, during our formative years, all we want to do is fit in. We want to feel part of the crowd. It's why when you see groups of young people that all dress the same and look the same, I was definitely in that scenario too, because I wanted to feel like I fit in. However, as you get older, there does become this desire for individualization. And when you reach whatever age, I don't know the specifics, it's really important to understand actually who are you and what makes you special and what makes you who you are. And particularly when we get into the business world, where you are maybe bringing an offer that is an expression of your skills, experiences, expertise, whatever it is, if it's ultimately coming from you, then we really do need to understand what is it that sets you apart from other people that are offering the same or similar services. But some advice that gets thrown around a lot, particularly for people when they're struggling with this, is this whole idea of just be you. But I think it's really hard to know who we actually are and how we can go about sharing that part of ourselves, or these parts that maybe haven't seen the light of day before, in a way that feels comfortable for us, or that feels safe enough that we can actually go ahead and do it. Particularly if you're somebody who has experienced bullying in your early years for being who you were picked on, then it can feel really, really triggering to actually get out there and visibly put yourself forwards. So with all that being said, what I actually wanted to do today was share with you my take on this whole just be you thing versus the highly curated perfectionist version that other people might tell you to put out. And for me, the way I like to approach this is to really think about turning the volume up on the parts of you that are most relevant and impactful for you and your audience. So what this means is that you do not need to share every single aspect of who you are, your life, what's going on, your beliefs, your values. Like, yes, share a version of these that is still authentic, that still comes from you, but you don't owe the world everything. You don't owe your audience every single detail about yourself. I'm very much aware as well that there's probably like a light show going on my face right now because of my blinds and the sun, so I apologize if that's distracting. And an exercise you can use to start gaining clarity around, what are the aspects of myself that I want to share with others, is essentially starting with a big old brain dump. You can write all the different aspects of who you are. And I very much like to imagine this from a couple of different angles. One, how would your friends describe you? The people that know you the most, how would they talk about who you are and what your personality is? And especially even if you've got that one friend where the full weirdo version of you comes out, like think about who that person is. And again, this can feel quite confronting sometimes. So you can imagine that there is a version of you that is sat next to you. Brand you is separate and sat next to you. It's still an expression, but it is separate from. And just think about, like, how would I describe that version of me? What are the aspects and the qualities that are really important? And think about yourself on like your best, most punchy, powerful, confident day. And you can even think back to maybe a time in your life where you felt incredibly confident. What were they like? What were the qualities that they possessed that were visible for all to see? And from there, you can then go ahead and list out more specifically, look, actually, that version of me is super playful. Or actually, maybe it's the complete opposite. Maybe it's, you know what, when I'm my most confident, I drop the humor because I'm not trying to make everybody comfortable. I'm actually able to be very serious about my ideas, and that's what makes it so powerful. Like, the most confident version of me doesn't need to crack a joke because her belief in her ideas is so solid. And when you have these lists of qualities, what you can basically do is every time you're thinking about creating content or showing up online is revisiting those and almost stepping into the shoes of that version of yourself, spending just a couple of minutes really like closing your eyes and breathing those qualities in so that you feel it first. And this doesn't mean, of course, that you can't show up if you're not feeling those emotions or feeling in that way. But when it comes to things like your website, for example, that pretty much stays the same, that's when you really want to be grasping onto those qualities and making sure they come through loud and clear on these sort of static pieces of content. Whereas in content that's a bit more transient on things like Instagram stories, or even to a certain extent on your feed, because posts get pushed down the more that you post, you can then be a more accurate expression of who you are in the moment of creation. But because you've always got that touch point, that anchor of like, you know, this is me. If people find my content and are interested and then want to go onto my website, they're going to get an accurate representation of the qualities about me and who I am that are most important, that best represent me. And the reason I'm saying all of this is because that when you are a personal brand, when you are the face of your business, well, you are naturally an ever-evolving, multifaceted human being existing in a multifaceted, ever-evolving world. And so there is constant change that's going to be happening around us. So what we want to ensure that we do is provide these solid and consistent anchor points for people, so it doesn't matter what actual day they find us on, because there is always a place where they can go to get an accurate picture of the type of person that we are at our very nature, the type of person that we are going to be showing up as for them in our business. To bring this to life for you, I know when I'm at my most confident, I am very playful. I am more than happy to crack a joke and have a smile. And when I'm on calls with people, like when I'm on my one-to-one sessions, that's the Becky that inevitably turns up. And so it's really important for me to ensure that on places like my website, and as much as I can in my content, I am also presenting that version of me, because that's the version they're actually going to be coming face to face with. Whereas if I actually decided, you know what, I'm going to put out a very serious message and have all my website and it's going to be very kind of heavy in its tone and dry and to the point and crisp, if people saw that, bought into that idea of who I am, and then came on a call with me and I was laughing and cracking jokes, there's going to be a discrepancy there between who they thought they were buying into and who they are actually presented with. So in answer to this question of how do you brand yourself, I would really encourage you to sit down and consider what are the qualities and traits and aspects of who you are that are most relevant to your audience, and then begin creating and begin talking and begin putting yourself out there and building a presence around those qualities. If you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments below and I will happily get back to you. Or if you know you need help with this, do make sure you check out Project Clarity, which is my hybrid one-to-one self-study, super collaborative 8-week program where we go through and ultimately create the messaging for your online presence. So we'll be answering the questions and creating clarity around the types of things that we've talked about in this video today. Otherwise, go take messy action, get creative, and most importantly, don't forget to have fun with it.